Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. And in the words of the greatest Premier League manager of all time, and I'm going to do this every episode until people get bored of it, of Unai Emre, good evening, and welcome to episode 32, episode 7 of this beautiful podcast. I want to say thank you to everyone that's been liking and following. Just to remind everyone as well, the previous podcast that we've got up is Mr. Redding, Mr. Jonathan Lowe, who come on and did a podcast with us and to discuss about himself, discuss about the Reading game that we were going up against Rotherham, and we got his score predictions and everything like that. But we have the Reading legend. He doesn't even need no introduction. He is a part of the sofa now. He can never leave, and to be honest, he's probably tried, but I am never letting him go. I will hunt him down with a microphone wherever he is just to get a piece from him now until the day that this podcast dies. Mr. Friday, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. How about you?
I'm not going to lie, I didn't know where I was going with that.
I thought it's kind of karma for the amount of times I've Reading players around with microphones. So
I have a picture in my head of you going, come on, please talk, please.
it's happened. It's definitely happened.
Right, everyone, let's have a discussion, shall we? Let's talk about Rotherham. We're going to discuss the Rotherham game, and then we're going to go into the build-up of probably maybe one of the biggest games we've had this season, according to Secretary Podcast. Go on.
Because I'm going to have a little rant about Rotherham. And I know you like it when I have a little rant.
I do. Rant? Hold on.
Yeah.
Rant? Yeah, rant. Oh. Jesus. You can edit that out, can't you?
No, I'm keeping that in.
Let's all have a little rant. To be fair, you say Grant instead of Grant, so he does have, yeah. I can see where he was going.
Let's not talk about that quiz a couple of weeks ago, Mark.
Oh, so a couple of weeks ago, we did a quiz on the podcast just for a bit of a laugh and a joke. And we were talking about Henry VIII. I asked him to name the last wife of Henry VIII before he died, before whatever happened. And he goes, oh, wasn't Anne Hathaway one of his wives?
Well, he wishes.
In my defence, I was on about 2.5 hours sleep.
This is the greatest first 5 minutes into a podcast we've done. Grant. It was right, so I'm going to tell a little story before we go into it. So we went to Dinton Pastures today for a little walk around to have a little fresh air, and the daughter's on half term, so to knacker her out at some point. And we were stood waiting, and we were walking back, and there was this bloke stood there. I say he was probably about my height. He didn't look like anything. He was just like one of those cold dressed up person. And he shouted the greatest phrase. I think I'm going to stick with me, right? So he didn't look like any posh, like poor or anyone like this. He went, "Oh, Spencer, do not throw that stick, please," like that. And I went, I had to walk. My partner looked at me and she went, "Don't laugh, don't do anything." I went, and then all you could hear me was, "Oh, Daisy, don't please," going. It was the high pitched. Oh, right. Now that we're all awake and ready to do this, let's talk about Rotherham. So how did we all feel? I'll go with you, Mr. Friday, first. Before the game, how were you feeling about it building up to it? What was your sort of... Did you think was it going to be as bad? Did you think it was going to be as bad as like the Wickham game? Did you think we were going to smash them? What was your sort of thinking going into it?
I was kind of torn, to be fair, because I thought after the Wickham game, I didn't think they played particularly well against Wickham. Mm-hmm. Thought maybe the gaffer would have had a couple of stern words. So I thought maybe part of me felt that maybe they go out sort of all guns blazing. Mm-hmm. And then another part of me thought that Reading's record against, no disrespect to Rotherham, but these so-called smaller teams that on paper you would expect Reading to beat.
Yeah.
They do sometimes struggle. I was quite looking forward to it, to be fair, because I thought it was going to go one or two ways. Like I said, either Reading were going to come out gung ho, or it's going to be a real battle.
So Ryan, you went for before the game a 2-0 win Mr. Lotto went for a 2-1 win. I went for a 1-0 just because I thought of the way that we played so far. So leading up to the game, was there anything that would change your mind leading up to it, of thinking you might have changed away from the 2-0?
Not really. Obviously, we didn't do the lineups on the pod last week, but I said to you, I think I called you after we recorded it and actually said the only change that I could have seen happening
was said it was Mate to be dropped, and for Semedo, and that was it.
Yeah. I thought Holmes would have played. I think he would have if he was fit, but he was picked up and not. Yeah, I liked the lineup a lot. I was a fan. But yeah, the reason I thought Mate would have been dropped, I thought Semedo, when he came on against Wickham, didn't do himself anything bad.
No.
Yeah. And then obviously Holmes I thought would have played. And Mate didn't have his most fantastic game against Wickham.
See, it was quite interesting with that. Let's talk about the starting lineup before we get into some of the stats about the game and going forward. So Rafael was in goal. Estevez coming for his full debut, first start debut, shall we say, with Morrison, Moore, and Richards, and then Reno and Laurent in the middle with Mate, Semedo, Ejaria, and then Puskas was on there, and on the bench was McIntyre, Elise, Gibson, Jow, Southwood, Aluko, and Tetic. Ryan, I'm going to go to you first. When you saw that starting 11 and you saw that Holmes wasn't even in the team, and we didn't know at the time that he had a hamstring injury, Semedo come in for Elise, it looked like, and Puskas come on for Jow. How did you? What did you think? Did you think that was a good idea with the rotation? Were you a bit concerned?
I got to be honest. When the team news came out, I was actually out in town, and I didn't see the lineup until people had already said that it was. Well, till the game kicked off, and I didn't realise Holmes wasn't on the bench. I sort of skimmed through quickly as you do, and I like the look of it.
Mr. Friday, what was your opinion on it?
Well, the Semedo was a strange call. We haven't seen him play that very many games, but to be honest, watching him from so far, I don't really rate him. Just in terms of, I don't know if he's been played out of position, but he doesn't seem very creative. He doesn't look like a brilliant sort of attacking threat. Whether maybe, I don't know, he almost looks like more of a defensive player playing in a number 10 position.
Do you want to know a funny stat about Semedo as well? No player won more tackles in the championship this weekend than Semedo.
This is what I mean. I think to me he's more of a defensive player.
I think don't understand.
CDM. I just thought whenever I see him in that number 10, I just think he looks a little bit lost. Like there's no, and you could see that in the first half against Rotherham, right up until Reading scored. There was no creativity whatsoever. Puskas was running around like a headless chicken. There was nothing going to him, and Reading just looked so flat going forward. Literally up until the point where Ejaria felt it was a brilliant assist and made it a good finish. But yeah, that was a strange one for me, dropping Elise. Even though I do agree that Elise, you have to manage him carefully. You almost don't want him to play every game. But John Swift was a big miss on Saturday for me.
Do you think? And I saw this as well. I think I saw someone put a tweet out after the game, and I'll ask you both. Do you think Swift gets straight back into the team, or do you think he'll have to work his way back into the team?
Straight, I'll put him in tomorrow. Straight back in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be a case of he'll go straight back in, but if he drops his form off a bit, doesn't play particularly well, I think he could easily.
Which he tends to do when he comes back from injury. He usually takes him 5 or 10 games
Yeah.
get going. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But no, 100%. I'd put him straight back in. I think Reading defensively, they're really. I mean, obviously, they've conceded one goal. So it's quite hard to criticise Paunovic's tactical selection. But
did you see the stat
they are
today?
missing that creativity.
Go on, Ryan.
Did you see the stat today about Raphael?
Yeah, I've just seen it.
It's the best save percentage in this season, minimum of 5 games. You've got Jan Oblak is top with 94.7. Second is Raphael with 93.3. And then Kayla Navas, 92.3, and Gianluigi Donnarumma with 90.2.
Not bad.
I'm surprised Kayla Navas is that far up, to be honest. I don't rate him as a keeper, but I'm surprised.
He plays against farmers every week, doesn't he? Well, that's probably really offensive. I've just never. Watching. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but last week the Man United PSG game, when everyone was going on saying, "Oh, PSG going to hammer him," they're so average. They are so incredibly average. And Neymar is the most. He's a YouTube footballer. He is the most overrated footballer on the planet.
No, I agree with you.
Sorry, rant over. Sorry. Should I say?
Right, let's talk about. Let's talk. Rant. That's the greatest thing ever that's happened. Right, let's talk about the first half. I saw a lot of people criticizing, saying how boring, how unlethargic, and I know that Ryan, we spoke about this earlier, and you wanted to, and I think me and you sort of agree on this a little bit. But Ryan, what did you think? To explain what you said to me earlier.
Okay, it wasn't the best first half by all means. I mean, in terms of memorable or forgettable, that's probably the most forgettable 45 minutes. It's up there with some of the worst. But what I saw at halftime, obviously, I think we were a bit fortunate to be 1-0 up at halftime. But what I said at the time is, and what Liam Moore said after the Wycombe game, good teams find a way to win. And people moaning about the way we played.
Is this your rant?
Yes.
Okay, go for it. But
so in our group that we've got on Snapchat, someone said we're playing awful. We've got like less than 40% possession against Rotherham. We've only had one shot. So I just responded to that by saying, "What's the score like?" Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. And so I don't know if either of you two have anything you think about it, but do you think we have a particular style of play at the moment?
No, but I think he sort of said when he came in, didn't he, that he didn't really have a set style of play, and it was going to be more about looking at the opposition and setting up in a way that he felt was best suited to that game. I think in terms of a style of play, they are very defensive. It is defensive. They don't throw too many players forward. They like to keep people behind the ball. But in some ways, not always, in some ways, it kind of reminds me of Diego Simeone a bit. Sort of that brand of football, like obviously nowhere near to the same standard.
No, we haven't got Diego.
Second, comparing Reading to Atletico Madrid.
I am. No, we haven't got Diego Costa or Luis Suarez up front at the moment, which still scares me, by the way.
We got better, haven't we?
I wouldn't want him anyway.
Yeah, wouldn't get in our team. But that's what I said in response to that. I don't think we have a style. I think we've got styles. We've got adaptability, and I think so far this season, obviously, we're now the only team in English football that hasn't actually gone behind in a game yet.
They press well. It's sort of like a defensive pressing sort of. It's quite unique.
Yeah. So I think we've got styles rather than a style. So what I said was, I don't think we've had a single 45 minutes yet this season where it hasn't been going to plan. So I like what I said was it's kind of like Bielsa at Leeds. But I saw in 442 magazine a while ago, they'd done an interview with Kamal Roof. And what he said was with Bielsa, they would work on it in training where they could set up one way and then after 5 minutes completely change their setup. And I don't think we've been in a position where we've had to change that much. Obviously, what I was thinking, we have teams like Barnsley where they had a lot of the ball. We had Wickham where we gave them a lot of the ball, and Rotherham where we gave them a lot of the ball. I think we're comfortable letting them have possession, knowing that they're not going to do much with it. We're confident that we'd be able to keep them out. Whereas you saw with Cardiff and Derby, what we would call the more footballing sides, we kept the ball to stop them from scoring that way. And I think that's how it's working. So I think we are setting up based on how the opposition are playing. And I think that's going to be quite a big factor in the game tomorrow against Blackburn.
And that's one of the things I said on Saturday when I was sat with my brother and we discussed it on Instagram Live, is you can really tell that Paunovic he's learned a lot with Simone, because I think I remember someone put something somewhere, or I've read it somewhere. I don't know where I read it, but I read that when Simone was at Atletico Madrid and Paunovic first come in, they used to be roommates. And they used to stay and go away games together, used to go to home games and sit next to each other. So he always picked Simone's brain. And when he left Chicago Fire, he went back to Atletico Madrid to sort of sit, watch from the far, and Simone just let him come and let him watch, and they used to discuss as well. You can definitely tell that this is a crossbreed between a Simone team and maybe a tad bit Bielsa, but Bielsa's just crazy with his tactics and what he does. He's absolutely mental. I watched the game against Man City, and a defender was in attacking position just to man mark one player, and it just absolutely mind blown me. But I really do think that this team is... I don't want to jump ahead and I don't want to get too excited, but I'm going to. Is if we do, touch wood and whistle, do get into the Premier League and we do have money, I can see this team upsetting a lot of clubs moving forward just by this tactic. This is a tactic that in the Premier League, everyone hates. Everyone wants you to be attacking. Everyone wants you to be forward first press. Look at Burnley. They sit back, they attack, they go long ball, and they upset quite a few teams. Not this season, but previous seasons they have. And that's the one thing that really excites me about this team. And then I think people were sort of judging Ejaria beforehand, or before the goal, shall we say, about that he hasn't really been himself, either without Swift isn't there, and I said this as well, he hasn't had a pre-season. So these 5, 6 games, 7 games that he's got are his pre-season, because he never had a game. I think the only game might have been in Portugal, but no one knows who played in that game or what really happened. So for me, seeing that cross and that touch and let's respect Mate for a sec there. During the whole of the first half, his touch was terrible. And then when the touch mattered, straight through the goalie's legs and goal. So I don't know what goes on or...
Fantastic finish as well.
Yeah, exactly. Keeper should have done better, let's be honest. But then he should have done better. And Wickham keeper should have definitely done better against that goal against Jowl the other night as well. But for me, I think we need to sort of really think about... And that's, with Swift as well, I wouldn't put Swift straight in because I feel like Elise's there, done really well. Mate there, yeah, he's done brilliantly. Ejaria there, he's getting there. If Ejaria carries on the form and keeps progressing, and Elise keeps going, I just can't cease to drop someone. Mate keeps scoring, and you can't drop him. Elise, when he come off the bench, you could see he was hungry to really perform in that game when he come off in that second half. And Ejaria, you can't just drop Ejaria because he can instantly just turn it on and split a pass and split open. So unless someone gets injured or someone happens, I can't see Swift getting in. Let's talk about the second half. Let's
just about what you said there. I'm going to go to about the Bielsa thing. You watching and seeing a defender furthest player on the pitch. I think we're seeing a bit of that with the likes of Tom McIntyre playing as a left winger or an attacking mid. Holmes being versatile, playing in multiple positions. Yep. I think Araruna, when he comes back, would be capable of doing the same thing. I think we got versatile players that are going to be able to play in 6 or 7 different positions for them. As for Swift not getting back in, I don't think there's anyone that's going to easily play 46 out of 46 games this season, unless you're Connor Cody. But
Gunter would have.
Sorry.
Just winding that mark.
Did you see me not bite as well? I didn't even say anything. I just sat there. I didn't say nothing. I was a good boy this time.
I didn't actually hear what you said.
He said Gunter would.
Oh, he would have, yeah. He's an absolute athlete.
Oh, for fuck off. But yeah, okay. Let's move on. Let's get on to the second half when I reckon top 3 goals to ever be scored at Medeski was scored for top 3, top 5.
I can think of 3 better. I can think of 3 better off the top of my head right now.
Go on then.
Danny Williams against Blackburn, Ollie Norwood against Ipswich, Lee Rolita against Palace.
No. Lee Rolita was good against Palace, but it wasn't as good as Mato's. Not as good.
That is a hard one.
No, I reckon Mate's was better because of how far out he was and the technique of it.
Burnley.
Oh, fuck off. Gareth Cleary don't get in top 5 anything.
It was.
Come on, that goal against Burnley was.
Yeah, that was a good goal. That was a very good goal.
That was something else.
Wasn't that to make it 2-2 or 3-3?
I mean, 2-2, I think it was.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
But I was sat in the executive box for that game. I don't know why I was in there. I don't know why. I'm just not posh enough to be in a box whatsoever. But there's also
for an open door and found myself.
Why am I here? So how did you think about the second half? Let's talk about the goal. Let's talk about Mate's goal and I think it was with his weaker foot as well, bearing in mind as well. Litas was with his stronger foot, and he was much more further out. Mr. Friday, what did you think about the second half performance?
It was much improved. I think they came out. They looked a lot hungrier. They were a lot more creative. They were creating chances. And then obviously coming to the goal, it was genius really from Mate. Not just. It's not necessarily just having the mentality to try it, but to try it and pull it off. A crucial moment of the game is quite special. The athleticism is brilliant. It's a funny one, mate. I still sometimes see people give him stick, and I just can't understand why. Like, he's consistently been Reading's top scorer over the last. Was it 2 seasons? He was top scorer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy. I think people also forget that he was a free transfer. He was, he was told he wasn't good enough by PSG. Reading snapped him up on a, good advice essentially that he was going to become a good player. When he first came in, he was this sort of Jack the Lad character, and you could see, just from looking at him around the place, you could see he wasn't. He needed to grow up. He looked immature. They sent him out on loan and he came back just looking a different player, and he's been outstanding ever since. And I get the argument about his first touch, but I mean, for crying out loud, the amount of vital goals the guy scored, you think you'd let him off a dodgy touch now and again.
I think the thing that with Reading fans, what I found, and I have very much been the people that have criticised Mate before in the past, is he's one of those players that
he's inconsistent. If he could be consistent, he would be in the Premier League.
Exactly.
100%. If he performed to the same level week in, week out, there's absolutely no chance he'd be at Reading next season.
Completely, and that's the thing that annoys me is consistency and and sometimes his touch. His first touch. If there's no one around him, he's absolutely fine. But his first touch, 90% of the time, is awful, and that's the thing that annoys me the most. And if you look at his consistency, he did really well. I don't think he played the Borough game. Wickham, he had a terrible game. And he even admitted after the game, which is good to see that players admit when they don't do well enough. And then he come into the Rotherham game and he proved himself, and he proved everyone the wrong that he did that as well.
I think I'd go as far as saying he is probably our most influential player. Just because you see off the pitch, new signings coming in. I think he's one of the first people to make Semedo and Estevez feel at home, welcome at the club.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So then João come on, which Puskas, I don't think he didn't have a great game, but at the same time, he had no one was giving him anything.
He didn't have a lot of service, did he?
No.
Really, he didn't.
He didn't have anything. So he come off and João comes on, and that ball that Liam Moore, I think it was Liam Moore that does all the time, the pump up over the top straight to João to let him do all the work.
I'm not sure if it's a pass. It's more of a hoik, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's just sort of a hoik up the pitch in the hope that João might go. But it works. So don't keep.
It's like in the NFL when they do like a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sort of technical brilliance to it. I think it's just I'm going to absolutely lather this up the pitch, and hopefully Lucas João will get on the end of it. And quite often he does, so fair enough.
And they got fouled about 3 minutes before, which I think should have been a red card. Because I think it was the last man, if I remember correctly, João and the defender. And then Elise. Let's talk about that free kick that took everyone by absolute surprise.
Yeah, the goal that never was.
How did that not go in? And did you see what Paunovic said after the game? I don't know whether anyone's seen this, but Paunovic said after the game, he goes, we sat down with our analysis team. I think I read this somewhere. I'm going to try and find it in a minute, see if I could get it right. He says, we sat down with the analysis team, and what we worked out was the Rotherham goalkeeper loves to come off his line. So whereas Elise went on, we spoke with Elise and said, right, if you've got a free kick deep, he's going to be miles off his line. Have a go. And that sort of detail was... You have a love affair with Bielsa, I swear to God.
But it is impressive detail.
It is absolutely. And I want to tell you another player that's really, really impressed me on his debut. And I got the quote that I saw that Jonathan Lowe put out on Twitter. You've probably seen this. Some of you might have seen it, some of you may not. About Estevez. About his debut, and Paunovic was talking about Estevez's debut. It says Thomas tried in the first half a couple times and learned quickly today wasn't the day. Quickly learned today wasn't the day to do the football we like to see. So then he put his shield on, his helmet, his sword, and he kept pounding and kept pounding. I was like, fucking love that.
No, but I completely agree. So I have to admit, in the first half, I thought he looked dodgy. Yeah, I thought he looked really dodgy. I thought there were a couple of times where he was trying to take an extra touch, and I don't know how much like first team football he's played in Porto. I didn't really do the research, but you could tell he was a player that hasn't played a lot of men's football. Mm-hmm. He looked like he was used to having a lot more time on the ball, and he didn't look like he was used to having some 6'2" brute running at him. He looked nervous, and a couple of his clearances didn't really go where he wanted them to go. But in the second half, I completely agree with what Paunovic said. You could tell he didn't try and do the fancy stuff. He just kept it simple. And sometimes simple is more effective. And yeah, he was really impressive. He looks a really good player.
So with your question about Porto, he played 10 times in 2019 for Porto B. And in the Porto main team, he's only played 2 games in the whole of 2019.
You could see he hasn't played a lot of first team football. But that will come with time. Don't get me wrong. He slotted in perfectly, and I'm sure the more games he plays over the course of the season, the better he's going to get.
So as well with Thomas Estevez as well, another stat about him was no defender completed more successful dribbles in the Championship this weekend than Estevez, who made 3. Which was
he looks comfortable with the ball at his feet.
I think I don't know whether you really work this out, but for me, I worked out was that you can tell that he's played like futsal in Portugal before, because when the ball comes to his feet, he doesn't stand there on the ball and sort of move it slightly here and there. He's always putting his foot on the ball. He's always tapping on it, or he's always moving it forward. There's always movement when the ball comes to his feet. I worked this out because my brother plays a lot of futsal and he studies futsal as well. And what he said is that's the way because he studies foreign futsal as well and everything. He goes, if you watch Portuguese futsal, that's what they do all the time. They get their foot on top of the ball, they tap it around. They don't play. You cannot keep the ball still, because if you keep the ball still, that gets the opposition an opportunity to take it. If you move it around, you will either get a foul or you're able to get the movement to pass it to someone. And that really, and I saw that against Wickham. He did a couple of times against Wickham, and I was like, oh, I quite like this. This is quite nice to see. So 3-0 win. How was everyone's thinking about it? Do you think it was a deserved 3-0 win? How did you come out? How did we all feel coming after the game?
I thought it was deserved because, I mean, the first half they were poor, admittedly. The second half they stepped it up, and Rotherham didn't really. They didn't do anything with it, did they? They didn't look.
No.
They had a couple of chances, but they didn't look anything special. So no, I thought it was deserved.
It was a deserved win, but I think 3-0 was very, very generous. I don't think it would properly show how the game actually went.
So let's go around the room then. We announced who we thought man of the match was on Instagram Live. So if you guys want to come and join us on Instagram Live, me and Adam talk after every game and we discuss the game a little bit, about our views on it, and who we think's man of the match and who we thought of it. So who do you think was man of the match?
Matey.
That's who we put.
You can't really give it.
You can't really give it to anyone else, can you?
No.
That'd be a bit harsh.
No, he was the one that we gave it to. So let's go on. And let's move on to the next fixture, which is for today. Tomorrow for everyone watching. I forget which day I'm recording for what podcast now. Tomorrow for everyone's watching. It is coming up with Blackburn. Probably one of the toughest. Oh, it's 7:45, not 8 o'clock. That's a bit horrible. 7:45 kickoff. Let's go through Blackburn before we go into this. So the game with them is their start of the season when they beat Wickham 5-0. They then beat Derby 4-0. They drew against Cardiff, lost against Nottingham Forest 1-0. They lost against Watford 3-1. And the weekend they beat Blackburn 4-0.
That's impressive.
They beat Blackburn. That is impressive. Themselves 4-0.
Fuck's sake, that's not what I meant. I meant Coventry. Right, they beat Coventry, who we will be playing this Friday on Sky, 4-0 at St Andrews, the Birmingham ground, until they can actually get a stadium of their own, which is still absolutely shocking what they're doing. Anyway, we're not going into that. So how are we all feeling before the game? Before we get into score predictions and before we get into anything else, let's have a little chat about how we're feeling. But before we get into that, what I want to do is I want to read you some stats. Not stats. I want to read you some of the last 5 meetings Reading have had against Blackburn. So as we know, the Sammy Baldock game, I'm going to call it from now on when he come out with a rant afterwards. In the 2009-20, the last away game was we lost 4-3. The home game, we lost 2-1. The game before that in 2018-19, we won 2-1. 2018-19 season as well, when we went to Blackburn, it was 2-2. And then the 2016-2017 season, the last time we played them before that, we won 3-1. How are we all feeling before the game? Mr. Friday, I'll go with you first. How are you feeling?
All right, just having a go at my missus for interrupting.
She could come on as well if she wants. Tell us what she thinks.
She's run away now. I'm putting 20 quid on 0-0.
Jesus.
So I know what the result's going to be already. It's the best attacking team in mine so far.
Blackburn though.
It's the best attacking team so far. I think it scored 16 goals. Mm-hmm. Reading have got the best defence. So yeah, I'm feeling highly confident that it's going to be a 0-0. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, I think Reading have. I mean, it's the best start in my mind in Reading's history to a season. I think it's actually. I saw someone tweet the other day that it's the best start to the Championship season ever. which is really impressive.
Joined with 3 other teams.
Joined with 3 other
Yeah.
teams. But I want to read something out to both of you as well about Reading's start, and I'm really proud of myself for doing this. So I'm going to brag it every time I can. What I did is I compared this season, the start that we've had for the first 7 games this season, and I've compared it to the 2 other times that we've got promoted. In the 2005-2006, the 106 season, and the 2011-2012 season. In the first games and the 2005-2006 season, in the first 7 games, we lost the first game, won the next 3, then they drew against Watford, then beat Burnley at home, and then we drew against Coventry. We scored 14 goals, we conceded 4 and got 14 points. In the 2011-2012 season, I was shocked when I did this, we drew the first game. Yeah, we drew the first game, lost the next 5 straight, and then we beat Doncaster 2-0. So we scored 5, conceded 10, and got 4 points. Then we'll do this season. We all know we've scored 11 goals, conceded 1, and on 19 points. We scored 3 less goals than the 05-06 season with the 106, and conceded 3 less as well. I said this on the live as well, and with Adam as well. And I said, if this team, I don't care if it's defensive, I don't care how it goes, at this time, this team is better than the 106 season at this point.
I don't think there's any question about that, because on paper, I don't think the 05-06 season were expected to have anywhere near as good of a season as we actually were.
Nope.
We actually did.
No, and Adam said on the Instagram live was that the reason why he won't say that, even if we got up to the record as well, that this team is better, is because that the 05-06 season team was so attacking and so creative.
Yeah. I still remember Bobby Convey's goal against Millwall.
That was a brilliant goal. That's
another one that was better than Yaks at the weekend.
All right, okay, calm down. Calm down there with your rant. So, Mr. Friday, so are you sticking? So, how are you feeling? How do you think Reading are going to do this? Are we going to make any change? Do you think there's going to be any changes? How do you think we're going to sort of play in this game?
I hope so. I think Semedo will come out. I think Elise will come back in. Fitness depending, because I think they did, like I said earlier, they really lack that creativity. But in terms of confidence, it's really hard not to feel confident at the moment, because obviously Reading, they're doing so well that there is like the cynical part of me that thinks, well, at some point it's all going to come crashing down. But at the same time, it's really difficult to doubt them at the moment because of how well they've been performing. And I just saw someone post on, I think it's on Facebook earlier, saying, "Oh, the only reason that Reading are doing so well is because they haven't played anyone good." But it's simply not true. They've played Derby, they've played Cardiff, they've played Watford, and they've beat all 3 of them.
There's no such thing as an easy game in the Championship.
No, exactly. I'm feeling. I do feel. I do think it's going to be 0-0, but no, I'm confident that Reading they'll come away with a result. Hopefully 3 points, but my prediction is 1.
So I want to go on your comment as well, Mr. Friday, about their goal difference and their goal scoring and defending. So since the start of the season, Blackburn have scored 16 goals, conceded 7, and got a goal difference of 9. Reading has scored 11, conceded 1, and got a goal difference of 10. So if we're going on that, and people saying Blackburn are more attacking, they've only scored 5 more goals, and that was probably the game that they did. And I want to say as well, this is what Tony Mowbray said. I saw just a minute ago about the game coming up this weekend. Where is it? Where did I see it? Ryan, before I find that and see it, how are you feeling before the game tomorrow then?
Yeah, like Courtney just said, you can't go 7 games unbeaten and not feel confident. Blackburn are a very, very, very good team. They've got good players, and they will be up there at the end of the season. We don't keep clean sheets against them. Last time we kept a clean sheet against them was that Danny Williams goal in that game. That was December 2015.
Was that the game where he broke the ball, or was that a different game? I can't remember if it was that one. There was one where he hit a shot so hard that he broke the ball.
Jesus.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe. I can tell you a very funny story about that goal.
Go on.
If you don't mind me going on a tangent.
No, you go on.
When I was at the Chronicle quite some time ago, one of the sort of the freelance photographers that we had wasn't always, how do I put this politely? It wasn't always useful. Is probably the best way to put it. His work ethic was questionable.
Right, okay.
I think is the best way to put it.
You sure it wasn't Ryan?
Thought you looked familiar. If you YouTube or whatever that goal and to look at the highlights, you will notice that as Danny Williams and the team are celebrating, there is a photographer sat in front of the players celebrating, not holding his camera. So when we asked, where are the celebration pictures for one of the best goals we've ever seen at Majesty Stadium, the reply we got was, "Oh, sorry." And then you look at the video, and the guy is literally they're celebrating virtually on top of him, and he's just looking at them like that. One of many moments with photographers. There are some amazing photographers, by the way. I have absolutely nothing against photographers, but
I love it how you have to clear yourself up.
That particular photographer on that particular day really cheesed me off. But yeah, I think that's the one. Aside from the fact that it was an amazing goal, that's another reason why I always remember that goal. It was the goal that we never got any pictures of.
Right. So I found what Tony Mowbray has just said is he goes, when I spoke to the analysis department about Reading, and they said they've conceded one goal. It was quite amazing. I spent the last couple of days watching them, and it's amazing. But they have a lot of attacking players in their squad as well. So he can see the danger as well. And Tony Mowbray as well is a very outspoken manager, and I can see that. The thing that made me sort of like him a little bit more was the end of last season with the 4-3. Before the game, he come out and said, Reading, you don't know which Reading team you're going to get. He goes, sometimes they will turn up and do really well, or sometimes they just won't do anything. And I was like, do you know what? He's absolutely spot on with Reading as well. It seems to do. So let's go on. Let's see what you guys think. Are we sticking score predictions? Let's go. Are you sticking with your 0-0?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ryan, go on then.
Can you go first? Because I really don't know.
2-0 Reading.
That's what I was going to say. It's going to be a scrappy game. I'm going to go. I'm going to go against everything that I've just said, that we don't keep clean sheets, and I'm going to say we're going to scrape a 1-0 win.
A 1-0 win. I saw that I've seen people say that as well. Okay, then. So before we go and before we finish up, before we get going and everyone can go and off and relax for the game, what's everyone's lineup prediction going to be? Is the only change going to be for Rotherham the Semedo to come out for Elise? Do we think
Guess as well? Guess will come out.
Who else?
Yes, for Zhao.
Oh, yeah. So Zhao will come in for Puskas, and then the other one will be Elise for Semedo, and Estevez will start because of Holmes might not be ready, or it's still not ready yet. So I think we all can agree on that. I don't think we need to do. I think we can all say that as well. So so that's it. I think we had that was quite a fun one with Ryan's rant and Courtney's photographer. Or lack of, put it that way. So thank you ever so much for joining. This has been a very good episode. Just to let you know, we're doing 4 videos for you this week, 4 podcasts for you this week. We've got today. This will be released today on the Monday for you guys to go and listen overnight or before you go to bed or while you're playing FIFA. You can listen away or watch it. And then tomorrow, Tuesday, we have the Ryan from Secretary Podcast that loves his XGs. Will be coming on, who I've already done the interview with and spoken to him this afternoon. He's a really nice person, really nice bloke. He's very clever, very insightful about what he thinks about each team, just not very clever enough to realise that. And I also read out stats to him as well about the thing. I want to see your guys' reactions when you watch it and listen to that. So that will be out with you tomorrow. Wednesday, we will be releasing a podcast talking about the Premier League, talking about United. Are they back to where they need to be with under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Or
Nope.
Okay, so I want to get your opinion. So I want to get your opinion on this just before we go and before we leave. And I know I'm wrapping up. Was on the last podcast, on the general podcast, I said that United need a Diego Simone type of manager, one that you're scared of. Because for me, when you look at Sir Alex, with me as well, especially on the touchline or anything, I was shit scared of him. I was like, I don't want to piss him off. But since every manager they've had since then, you can't see the trend of if you've done something wrong, he's not going to rollick you. With under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I just can't see that. So do you think it's Solskjaer that's the problem? Is it the players that's the problem?
No, for me, it's the players. It's never been Solskjaer. I see people mock Solskjaer because he's laughing and smiling, but you know what we see and what the players see, I'm sure, are two very different things. And Solskjaer does put on this sort of happy-go-lucky front, but I grew up in Scandinavia, and to be honest, that's quite a Scandinavian thing. They are sort of happy, jolly people. So I don't read into that at all. I'm sure behind the scenes he's a lot more fiery than he looks in front of the cameras. But yeah, no, I don't think he's to blame. I think the owners have got a big play in it, and the players, who a lot of them ultimately they're just not good enough to be at a club like Man United. So no, I don't blame Solskjaer at all. He wasn't backed in the transfer window. They spent 40 million quid on a player that they don't need.
I don't understand that. Donny van der Beek is a quality player.
He's a good player, but they didn't need him.
No,
it was a waste of 40 million pounds. In terms of it, he's a number 10. He needs to play in the Bruno Fernandes position. That's where he needs to play, and he's not going to play in front of Bruno Fernandes because one, he's not as good as Bruno Fernandes, and two, it's just not going to happen. So I can't understand for the life of me why they sanctioned that transfer. I really can't.
Okay, then I'm going to get your prediction. This Sunday, you have a very tough test against Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. They've lost two on the bounce now, Arsenal, and Arsenal fans are not happy that they're not playing a banger, as Arsenal fan TV call it, a banger Bubba I love that. I saw that and it makes me piss myself with laughter every time. How do you think this game's going to go? Do you think United are going to come out with a win? Do you think Arteta is going to do another masterclass? What do you think is going to happen?
0-0 again, same as Chelsea. I think both teams will be sort of quite conservative. No one's going to want to lose the game. I'm not quite sure if it will be the Frank Lampard school of management of sticking all 11 men behind the ball and sort of hoping for it.
Nice little dig.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it'll be 0-0 again.
Perfect. Right. And then on Thursday for you guys as well, we will be releasing a special podcast. Well, I would say special because it's not. A podcast / video cast. I don't really know what to call it anymore because we just do loads of videos now. On Thursday, where we're going to build up, we're going to talk about the Blackburn game and how we did and how we're going. And then we're releasing it Thursday because the game for the Coventry game, Jesus Christ, is on Friday. So Friday night. So we're going to release it on Thursday and then we're going to have a nice little weekend. And then hopefully next week we will go back to normal and get your guys' reaction to the who we're playing Coventry game on Monday, and then we will build up to whoever we're playing next week because I can't be bothered to look. So yes, thank you, Mr. Friday, for coming on. You've been an absolute diamond again. Thank you ever so much, Ryan, and I hope you enjoyed your rant. Oh, that's the best thing. I can't even put rant into. I'm going to find a way of putting that in the thumbnail, I'm telling you. I
Just
didn't
spell
even.
it wrong.
Right,
R-A-U-N-T.
when you got dressed this morning, did you put on your pants? I thought of that one straight away, but I thought I'd save it for the end.
Yes. You know when you fucked up when Mr. Friday has to give you stick. And you know when you fuck up on Twitter is when Mr. Friday gives you... I saw a tweet that Derby fan did on our Twitter, or so-called Derby fan, and he was moaning about our score on our Twitter page, and all I see is Mr. Friday did a new tweet. So I had a look at it, it was just you printing a score between Reading and Derby on it. I was like, you just got done. You got done. That was the best thing. Right. We're all going because we're all losing the ball to be sensible, and it's even better. Right. Everyone take care, and we will see you when we see you. Bye.
Bye.